Hey everyone, Noir here. Let's get into today's Reddit story.
I am 36 years old, and I have been married for 8 years. I believed I had a good life. It was not perfect, but it felt stable. I worked hard every day, came home every evening, and paid the bills without complaining. My wife had her own career, and I had mine. We lived by the same routine. Looking back, I understand now that routine and happiness are not the same thing, but I did not realize that then. Everything changed last Friday at our company's annual dinner. It was one of those corporate events where people pretend to enjoy bad food and cheap wine while trying to impress each other. I did not really want to go, but my wife had been pushing me for weeks. She said showing up together was important for her professional image. So I put on my best navy suit, the one she gave me for my birthday, smiled, and went with her. The evening started well enough. Her coworkers were friendly, and I spent most of the time making small talk about sports, the weather, and other unimportant things. I have never been the kind of man who draws attention in a crowded room. I usually stay quiet, listen more than I speak, and make other people feel heard. My wife used to tell me that was one of the things she loved most about me because I always made her feel important. It is strange how much people can change. Dinner ended around 9 o'clock. By then, people were on their third or fourth drink, and everyone was becoming less careful about what they said. Her boss, a man who wore far too much cologne and laughed loudly at his own jokes, took over the conversation at our table. My wife laughed at everything he said. I noticed it, but I did not think much of it because she always became more energetic around her bosses. Then, one of her coworkers from accounting, a guy with a receding hairline and far too much confidence, made a joke about relationships. He said women always wanted more and men could never quite measure up. A few people laughed awkwardly. That was when my wife decided to speak. "Trust me," she said loudly enough for half the table to hear. "Some of us just learned to settle. No woman would actually want him if she knew what she was getting." The conversation immediately became awkward. People looked at their drinks, their plates, or anywhere except at me. I slowly turned toward her. She was smiling. Not an embarrassed smile. Not the kind of smile that says she misspoke. It was intentional. The accountant tried to ease the tension. "That is a little harsh, isn't it?" She waved his comment away. "I am only telling the truth. Just look at him." Then she added, "He is small in every way that matters, if you know what I mean." She even winked. Several people gasped. Others laughed nervously. Her boss grinned like he was watching the best entertainment of the night. I could feel everyone staring at me. Some looked embarrassed for me. Others waited to see how I would react. My wife just kept smiling as if she had said something clever. I did not yell. I did not argue. For a second, I thought about throwing my drink at her, but I pushed that thought away. I looked at her quietly for a long moment. Then I said, "All right." I adjusted my watch, a habit I have had since college, pushed my chair back, stood up, and walked out of the restaurant. I did not rush or make a scene. I simply walked away. Behind me, I heard her call out, "Where are you going? Are you serious?" She sounded annoyed, not sorry, as if I was the one embarrassing her. I got into my car and sat there for a minute, taking slow breaths. My hands were steady, my heart was calm. For the first time in years, everything felt clear. It was like a fog had finally disappeared, and I could see the truth that had been in front of me all along. When I got home, I poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey and sat alone on the couch in the dark. I did not turn on the television. I did not check my phone. I just thought about every small insult, every sarcastic comment, and every moment over the past 8 years when she had made me feel exactly what she called me that night. Small. She came home around midnight. I heard her heels on the hardwood floor and her purse hit the counter. She was drunk. "Are you really upset over a joke?" she asked, slurring her words. Everyone was laughing. "You are being way too sensitive." I did not turn around. It was not a joke. She sighed. "Oh my God, here we go." She walked in front of me. "So now you are going to sulk? Give me the silent treatment like a child?" "No," I said calmly. "I am going to bed. You can sleep in the guest room tonight." She stared at me. "Excuse me?" She stared at me. "You're kicking me out of my own bedroom?" "It isn't your bedroom," I answered. "It's our bedroom, and tonight I don't want you sleeping in it. She let out a laugh, but it sounded forced. You're actually serious? All because of one stupid joke at a work dinner? Yes, I said. I'm serious. The smile disappeared from her face, replaced by something much colder. You're pathetic, she snapped. This is exactly what I meant. You can't even take a joke. You're weak. I stood up, looked her straight in the eyes, and said, Go to the guest room. She called me controlling, manipulative, and a few other names. She insisted I was proving her point, that I was small in every way that mattered. Then she grabbed her phone, stormed into the guest room, and slammed the door so hard the pictures on the wall shook. I went to bed, but sleep never really came. I kept replaying everything that had happened, not just that night, but the last 8 years. All those little comments I'd ignored. You're too quiet. Why can't you be more assertive? My friends' husbands are so much more ambitious. I always convinced myself she was just stressed or blowing off steam. Now I finally saw those comments for what they really were. They had been wearing me down, one insult at a time. Update 1. Saturday morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. Around 10 o'clock, she walked into the kitchen, kissed me on the cheek like always, and asked what I wanted for breakfast. She sounded cheerful, as though she hadn't humiliated me in front of her coworkers less than 12 hours earlier. I was making coffee and ignored the question. She sighed dramatically. Are you seriously still upset about last night? Come on, I already said I was sorry. I looked at her. No, you didn't. Well, I'm saying it now. I'm sorry, okay? It was the wine. You know I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. She rolled her eyes and leaned against the counter. Fine, maybe I meant some of it, but you have to admit you're not exactly assertive. You let people walk all over you, including me. Sometimes I just wish you'd act more like a man. I carefully set my coffee mug on the counter. So that's really what you think? It's what I know, she replied. You're passive. You never stand up for yourself. That's why I said what I did. Maybe if you had more backbone, I wouldn't have to point it out. In front of your coworkers? She shrugged. I wasn't trying to humiliate you. I was just telling the truth. You're too sensitive. I took a slow breath before saying the words that had been on my mind since the night before. I want a divorce. She laughed. No, you don't. Yes, I do. The smile slowly faded. You're serious? I've never been more serious. She stared at me, trying to decide whether I was bluffing. Finally, she said, You won't go through with it. You don't have the guts. Watch me. She stood there for another moment before walking out of the kitchen. A few minutes later, I heard her crying on the phone, probably talking to her mother. The sobs sounded loud and dramatic, almost rehearsed. I pulled out my phone and started looking for divorce attorneys. I found one with excellent reviews, the kind of lawyer whose face was on billboards across the city. I called his office, expecting voicemail since it was Saturday. Instead, he answered on the third ring. I need a divorce, I told him. Fast, clean, and I don't care what it costs. I can help with that, he said. Tell me about the situation. Property? Assets? The house is only in my name. I bought it 2 years before we got married. I also have investment accounts she doesn't know about, around $500,000. Good, he said, very good. What about employment? I work full-time in finance. She's been working part-time at her company for about 2 years. I've been paying around 80% of our expenses. Even better, this should be fairly straightforward. My team will prepare everything and will contact you Monday morning. Sunday passed in complete silence. She stayed in the guest room. I stayed in the master bedroom. We never spoke. I could hear her moving around the house and talking on the phone, but we avoided each other completely. It felt like we were strangers, living under the same roof. Update 2. Monday morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. I attended meetings, answered emails, and spoke with clients. Nobody had any idea what was going on. I've always been good at keeping my personal life separate from work. Around noon, my lawyer called. The paperwork is ready. We'll have her served this afternoon. Where will she be? At the office. She usually works on Mondays. Perfect. We'll serve her there around 3 o'clock. Are you sure that's a good idea? Her coworkers will see. You wanted this handled quickly and cleanly. Serving her at work adds pressure. Trust me. At 3:15 that afternoon, my phone rang. It was my wife. She was screaming so loudly, I had to hold the phone away from my ear. "You actually had me served? Have you completely lost your mind?" she shouted. "Everyone saw it. The whole office watched me get served with divorce papers." "Good," I replied calmly. "Good? What is wrong with you? Are you trying to humiliate me? Is this your revenge?" "No," I said. "I'm divorcing you. That's not the same thing." Her voice cracked. "I can't believe you're ending our marriage over one stupid comment at a work dinner." "It wasn't one comment," I answered. "It was 8 years of comments. I just finally decided to believe them." She hung up. That evening, around 6 o'clock, she came to the house with her mother. Her mother had never liked me. From the beginning, she believed I wasn't good enough for her daughter. In her eyes, I wasn't successful enough, exciting enough, or good enough in any way. She walked into my house like she owned it. "You need to stop this nonsense right now," she said without even saying hello. "You're being childish and vindictive. She made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes." "She made a lot of them," I replied. "I'm done forgiving them. You're destroying her reputation. Everyone at her office is talking about this. You're ruining her career because your ego got hurt." "That isn't my problem anymore." Her face turned bright red. "You're a pathetic little man. No wonder she said those things about you. You're nothing. You always have been. My daughter deserves someone much better." I smiled. "And yet, I'm the one who owns this house. I'm the one with the money. And I'm the one who hired a lawyer that charges more per hour than you probably make in a week. So if I'm nothing, what does that make you?" She opened her mouth, then closed it again. No answer came. My wife stood in the corner crying, mascara running down her face. Her mother grabbed her by the arm, and they left without saying another word. Update 3. The next 3 weeks felt like a lesson in psychological warfare. First came the apologies. She left long, emotional voicemails, crying and promising she never meant what she said. She claimed she loved me and would do anything to save our marriage. I ignored most of them. When I did answer, I only said one thing: talk to my lawyer. After that came the threats. She promised to take everything I owned. She said she'd tell everyone I was a terrible husband and make sure I never saw another dollar. Apparently, her lawyer explained that none of that was realistic, because those threats disappeared pretty quickly. Then she started showing up at my office. The first time, she asked to talk calmly. Security escorted her out. The second time, she came crying and begging. Security escorted her out again. The third time, she stood in the lobby screaming that I was a monster. That time, security called the police. She never came back after that. Not long afterwards, some of her coworkers started messaging me on social media. Apparently, she had been telling people that I was abusive, controlled all the money, isolated her from friends and family, and threatened her. None of it was true. She just needed to make herself the victim. Most of the messages didn't matter, but one caught my attention. It was from the accountant who had been at the dinner. "Hey man, I'm sorry about what happened that night. She was completely out of line. I don't know if this matters now, but I think you deserve to know she's been seeing someone at work. As far as I know, it's been going on for at least 3 or 4 months." I didn't panic when I read it. Instead, everything suddenly made sense. I replied with one word: who? He answered almost immediately. Her boss, the guy sitting at the head of the table. Of course, everything fit together. The late nights at work, the sudden attention she paid to her appearance, the way she laughed at everything he said during the dinner, the smile on his face while she humiliated me. I forwarded the messages to my lawyer. He sent them to her attorney. 2 days later, her lawyer contacted mine. They wanted to settle. She was willing to sign whatever agreement we offered. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday at my lawyer's downtown office. It was a modern building with glass walls, steel everywhere, and expensive artwork decorating the lobby. Her lawyer was already there when I arrived. A few minutes later, she walked in. She looked exhausted. She wasn't wearing makeup, her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and the dark circles under her eyes were impossible to miss. She couldn't even look at me as she sat across the table. Her attorney pushed the paperwork forward. My client agrees to every term. No alimony, no claim to the house or any property acquired before the marriage. She keeps her vehicle and her personal belongings. That's all. My lawyer looked at me. I nodded. I signed every page. She signed every page. 15 minutes later, 8 years of marriage were over. As we walked into the hallway, she reached out and grabbed my arm. The touch felt unfamiliar. I didn't mean it, she whispered. I didn't mean any of it, she whispered. I was drunk. I was stupid. I love you. I really do. I looked at her hand holding my arm, then I looked into her eyes. Maybe for the first time in years, I truly saw her. No, I said quietly. You don't. You never loved me. You loved what I gave you, the stability, the house, the security, but you never loved me. I gently pulled my arm away and walked toward the elevator. She was crying behind me. I never looked back. Update 4. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I had started building a new life. I sold the house. There were too many painful memories inside those walls. Instead, I bought a downtown condo. It was smaller but modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. It finally felt like a place that belonged to me. Work was going better than ever. Without the stress of my marriage weighing me down, I focused on a project I had been putting off for years. My boss noticed. I got promoted. It wasn't a minor promotion either. I moved into a senior role, received a significant raise, and finally got the corner office. I realized I had always been capable of that success. I had just spent too much energy trying to manage someone else's emotions. Then, one Tuesday afternoon, an unknown number called me. Normally I ignored those calls, but for some reason I answered. Hi, is this you? A young man asked nervously. Who's calling? My name is, well, this is kind of awkward. I think you should know something about your ex-wife. I almost ended the call. Instead, I said, go ahead. I work, or I guess worked, at her company. The whole place is falling apart. Your ex and her boss weren't exactly hiding their relationship. Someone filed a complaint, human resources investigated, and they found some pretty inappropriate emails. They were both fired last week. I leaned back in my chair. Why are you telling me this? Because she's telling everyone that you got her fired. She's saying you contacted the company and made up stories about her. I was at that dinner. I saw what happened. I figured you should know what she's saying. I appreciate the call, I said, but I never contacted her company or anyone who works there. I figured as much. I also heard she's not doing very well. She moved back in with her mom, and that guy, her boss, left her almost immediately after they were fired. It didn't even last a week. We talked a few more minutes before hanging up. Afterward, I sat quietly at my desk. I wasn't happy about what had happened to her. I wasn't sad either. I simply didn't feel anything. She had become part of my past. That weekend, I went to a charity event a coworker had invited me to. I almost skipped it, but he convinced me I needed to get out of the house. I'm glad I listened. That's where I met her. She was the woman from the coffee shop near my office. We had talked a few times while I grabbed coffee before work, but seeing her outside the shop was different. She was confident, funny, and easy to talk to. In just 2 hours, she made me laugh more than I had during the last 2 years of my marriage. We exchanged numbers, coffee turned into dinner turned into regular dates. She knew I was divorced, but I never unloaded my whole story onto her. She didn't need to carry that baggage. Update 5. 3 months into dating, things were going really well. She was everything my ex had never been. She encouraged me instead of tearing me down. She asked about my day and actually cared about the answer. She laughed at my jokes, even the terrible ones. Most of all, she made me feel valued. Then, one Saturday afternoon, I received an email from my ex. The subject line read only, "Please read this." I almost deleted it without opening it. Instead, I clicked. It was pages long. The message was filled with apologies, explanations, and excuses. She wrote that she had made the biggest mistake of her life. She said she had started therapy and was working on herself. She admitted she finally understood how deeply she had hurt me. She begged for another chance. She even wrote that nobody would ever love me the way she did. I read the email once, then I read it again, and I felt absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no temptation to answer, nothing at all. I deleted it. That evening, my girlfriend noticed I seemed distracted. We were at her apartment making dinner together. "You okay?" she asked while chopping vegetables. Yeah, I said. My ex emailed me today. She paused. Oh? She wants another chance. And? I deleted it. She smiled, picked up the knife again, and went back to cooking. Good. That was all she said, and somehow that was exactly what I needed to hear. There was no jealousy, no interrogation, no drama, just trust. It felt so unfamiliar that I almost didn't know how to react. About a week later, I ran into one of my ex wife's former coworkers at a restaurant. He recognized me and walked over. Hey man, how have you been? Good, I said. Actually, really good. I'm glad to hear that. I also wanted to tell you something. Everyone felt awful about what happened at that company dinner. What she did was completely out of line. I appreciate that. Honestly, most people were on your side. Nobody thought her behavior was acceptable. Thanks. He nodded. Karma seems to be catching up with her. Last I heard, she's still living with her mom and can't find a job. Believe it or not, she even listed you as a reference on a job application. She did? Yeah. I figured it didn't work out after they called you. They never called me. He looked surprised. Oh, maybe they will. I just thought you should know. We talked for another minute before he returned to his table. When he left, my girlfriend asked what the conversation was about. I gave her the short version. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You know what I like most about you? She asked. What? You never obsess over your ex. You don't keep talking about her. You don't let her control your thoughts anymore. You just moved on. That takes real strength. I had never looked at it that way. But she was right. I had moved on. My ex wasn't part of my life anymore. Not because I had forgiven her. Honestly, I'm not even sure I have. She simply stopped mattering. Final update. It has been 6 months since everything fell apart. 6 months since that company dinner. The divorce was finalized 4 months ago. My life looks completely different now. I still live in my downtown condo. I'm still at the same company, now working in the senior position I earned. The job challenges me every day, and I enjoy it. My girlfriend and I are still together. We're taking things slowly, and that's exactly how we both want it. No pressure, no rushing, just two people enjoying each other's company. Last month, I heard that my ex got engaged. Apparently, she'd been dating a guy she met at a bar for only 3 months before they decided to marry. From what I heard, her mother couldn't be happier. I guess she finally found someone who met her expectations. When my girlfriend heard the news, she thought it might upset me. It didn't. I honestly hoped things worked out for my ex. Not because I had become some saint, but because if she found happiness with someone else, maybe she'd finally stop trying to come back into my life. About a month ago, I saw her by accident. My girlfriend and I were having dinner when my ex walked into the same restaurant with her fiancé. Our eyes met for a couple of seconds. She looked like she wanted to come over. I simply looked away and continued my conversation as if nothing had happened. About 10 minutes later, she left. My girlfriend asked, "Was that your ex?" "Yes." "Are you okay?" "Yeah." And I truly meant it. Sometimes people ask if I'm angry about everything that happened, if I'm bitter about spending 8 years with someone who treated me like I didn't matter. The answer is no. Anger means you're still emotionally invested. It means you still care. I don't. To me, she's simply someone I used to know. If there's one lesson I learned from all of this, it's this. When someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Don't wait for them to prove it again. Don't make excuses. Don't convince yourself they'll change. Accept what you're seeing and act accordingly. My ex revealed exactly who she was that night at the company dinner. The truth is, she'd been showing me for years. I just ignored it because I had become comfortable, afraid of change, and willing to overlook things that never should have been acceptable. That night, she simply said it loudly enough that I couldn't pretend anymore. She believed I was small. She expected me to stay quiet. She thought I'd accept the humiliation because I always had before. Instead, I walked away. Then I kept walking, and I built a life that turned out better than the one we ever had together. I was never small. I just spent too many years with someone who needed me to believe I was, so she could feel bigger. Now I know the truth. The woman I'm with today sees something completely different. She sees strength where my ex saw weakness. She sees confidence where my ex saw passiveness. She sees a partner instead of someone whose only purpose is to provide. That changes everything. My ex was wrong about many things, but she was especially wrong about one. She said no woman would ever want me. The right woman already does.